the street, I'm a suspect.
Aunt Nita's House by Henry Tales. Oh, you've gotta be kidding me. That's the answer I gave my father when he asked me. He and my mom wanted me to go live with Aunt Nina for 3 months. Were they crazy? I couldn't bear to spend a day in that house, and they wanted me to go live there for 3 months? Hell no, dude.
It's just till we find someone permanent, and we'll pay you.
My dad said. Dad, whatever you're planning on paying me, it's not enough to get me to live for 3 months with Aunt Nina, I said as I grabbed my bowl of cereal from the counter and started to make my way to my room.
$1,000 per month?
He said, stopping me on my tracks. I almost choked on my cereal. Are you serious? I asked with a surprised look on my face. That's twice what I was making at my part-time job at the time, and with high school almost over, it'd be nice to be shipped off to college with a full wallet. We are serious, Dan. We need you to look over Aunt Nina. She's had 4 accidents in the last 2 months. At her age, she could really get hurt. The next fall could be fatal, my mom said as she walked over to me and put a hand on my shoulder. She was trying to make me feel bad for Aunt Nina, and as cruel as it may sound, it wasn't really working. She was a real mean, crazy old bitch. I hated visiting her as a kid. I wanted to say no, but it was a lot of money. Dad stopped the car in front of Aunt Nina's house. Grass in her lawn was ankle high, and even from the outside you can tell that her house was in serious need of repair. Mom and Dad gave me a talk inside the car about the whole situation and how I should handle things. After a few minutes, I got out, waved goodbye, and they drove away. As I turned my eyes back at the house, I could spot Aunt Nina peeking out of one of the windows on the second floor. Her gray, straw-like hair covered half of her wrinkled face as she stared at me with milky eyes. She saw that I noticed and walked away from the window. Here we go, I sighed and shook my head as I began to walk up to the front porch. I walked up the old wooden stairs, each creaking underneath my foot. Just like in a cliché horror movie, I rang the doorbell and waited for her to open the door. Not long after, I heard heavy and rapid footsteps coming down the stairs. Aunt Nina seemed to move quite fast for an old lady. She opened the door hastily and backed away from it. You shouldn't have come, she spat out. Hello to you too, Aunt Nina, I said as I walked past her through the little hallway and into the living room. I took off my backpack and set it on the couch next to me as I turned around to face her. The sound of the front door being shut echoed, and she soon emerged into view. I told your parents I didn't want you here, she said with venom in her words. Well, Aunt Nina, they're worried about you. You need somebody to take care of you, and until they can find a nurse they can trust, I'm that someone. She let out an angry sigh and began to walk upstairs. The entire time she shook her head and whispered to herself. After she was gone, it was my time to go upstairs and find my new room. So I grabbed my backpack and went on my way. I walked down the hallway on the second floor and past Aunt Nina's bedroom. I could hear whispers coming from inside. It sounded like she was praying. I continued on my way and found my new bedroom. It was the same guest room I used to sleep in when I came and visited her. I closed the door behind me and threw myself onto the bed. It was a long trip and I was exhausted. I messed around on my phone for a while and ended up falling asleep. I woke up a couple hours later and the room was pitch dark. I grabbed my phone to see what time was it, and it said 7 p.m. I turned on my flashlight and walked downstairs. I was hungry as shit, so I decided to make myself a sandwich. I headed into the kitchen, opened the fridge, and started to gather stuff for my sandwich. After I had gotten everything I needed, I closed the door to the fridge and turned around. I almost dropped all my stuff I was holding when I noticed Aunt Nina standing in the doorway to the kitchen. Everything was dark and the only light was the one coming from my phone's flashlight, but it was weak, and it didn't stretch far enough for me to see her very well, so I could only make out her silhouette. Oh, sorry, Aunt Nina. I know I should have asked you before raiding your fridge, but I was starving, so I came down to make a sandwich, I said nervously. She didn't respond. She just stood there, staring at me. This was starting to creep me out, but about a minute later, she slowly turned around and walked away. Took me a few seconds to get over how weird it was and go back to making my sandwich. The next morning, I was ready to get to work. I made my way downstairs and went to find Aunt Nina and ask if she needed anything. I found her in the backyard watering her plants. I approached her and asked her if there was anything I could do for her. I don't need you to do anything for me. Despite what your parents think, I'm not senile. I can take care of myself, she said angrily. Okay then, if you need anything, I'll be in the living room. I was ready to walk away when suddenly I remembered what happened the other night and thought I'd take the opportunity to apologize. Hey, Aunt Nina, I'm sorry about last night. I should have asked you first before opening your fridge, I said. She looked confused. What are you talking about? Last night, I was taking some stuff from the fridge, and you stood in the door staring at me. Don't you remember? Her expression changed from confused to concerned. Listen, Daniel, I sometimes walk. She paused. In my sleep, whenever you see me like that, don't try and talk to me. Just pretend I'm not there. And if I'm the one trying to talk to you, leave the room. Got it? Her tone was serious, and she sounded worried. I'd never seen her like this. I nodded at her words. Yeah, Nina, don't worry. Everyone knows not to wake sleepwalkers. Good, she said. She went back to watering her plants, and I went back inside. I went to the living room and sat on the couch, pulled out my phone, and started to browse through Reddit. Maybe half an hour, I decided since Aunt Nina didn't want me to do anything, I was gonna spend an entire day in bed watching Netflix and YouTube. I got up and was headed upstairs when something caught my attention. There was a painting in the living room. I had never noticed it. I stopped for a second to look at it. There were two people in it, a man and a woman. The man was wearing a brown suit and the woman was wearing a blue long-sleeved dress. There was something about that woman. I couldn't tell what. I shook off the feeling and went on my way upstairs. Night came. It was already 9 p.m. I hadn't seen my Aunt Nina in hours, but knowing her, she was probably fast asleep by now. I took the last sip from my water and then put the empty glass back on the nightstand and resumed watching Netflix. Not long after, I heard footsteps outside in the hallway. They stopped right in front of my door for a while, and then they continued. The footsteps were going all the way to the end of the hall, and then they stopped right in front of my door. Again, back and forth, over and over again. Aunt Nina was sleepwalking? The footsteps stopped at my door again. This time, I heard whispers. I got out of my bed, my bare feet touching the cold hardwood floor, and slowly walked up to the door. I stopped at it about 3 feet from it and tried to make out what she was saying. Before I could, the whispers turned into loud thuds, and she began to fiercely slam and pound against the door. I jumped back, startled. As it kept going, I became more and more worried. I knew you're not supposed to wake up sleepwalkers, but what if she hurt herself? The sound of it was so loud that it was making it hard to think. It seemed like she was never going to stop, so I made my decision. I ran to the door and I pulled it all the way open, and to my horror, no one was there. There was no sign of Aunt Nina. I stood there trying to make sense of what just happened. Out of nowhere, a cold breeze of wind blew over my face. Fear washed over me. What the hell just happened?